Well, of course, I'm quite lucky living in Ottawa, being in the capital of the country and the poetic capital of the country. But at the same time, I've also been blessed by being able to actually read in a lot of readings around the city. So I'm going to try to read things that people perhaps haven't heard if they've come to some of the other readings. But at the same time, I'm also going to read some things that you've probably perhaps even grown tired of. And I'm going to stick to this book and kind of just float around a little bit and going, I think, progressively through the different sections. So as Rod was saying, I'm going to, a number of the poems in Air talk about alcohol. And because I thought, you know, we have a lot of jokes in our culture around alcohol. We have a lot of songs around alcohol, but we have very few poems. And I thought that this would be a good chance to address that. So I'm going to read some of those to start with. One poem that I've read before, but it's a fun one to start with because it really gets the vocal cords limbered up. It's called Tasting Notes. It's from an imaginary spirit. I've got a number of imaginary spirits throughout the first section of the book. And this one is an imaginary spirit called Chateau du Mauvais Chien 2004. And it's a fictional bottle of wine. And it's a poem that tries to make fun and use some of the over-exuberance, I think, of wine writing that's been happening for the last 2 decades. So these are actually the tasting notes from this fictitious bottle of wine. So you have to imagine Robert Parker Jr. Saying this to you in the LCBO. Tasting notes. Gooey, globate gobsmacks of jellied gingivitis and jejune jujube juice, galloping gargantuan in the gorge. Golly. Guzzle it gingerly, guggle it like grub gum in a groaning Gregorian gargle, both godly and goy, or gloss over the goo gaws with glee. Generally, it's going to garrote you, grind and grunt. Gently, the gastro-gibbet gimcracks will gaff you, gape and gag. This grainy gunk, a good gallows glug, is glum gossamer. It's greasy grape glut. It's like Gotha Gouda gabbled with glacial granite gravel. It grabs you in the gut bucket as a garish gardyloo from the glory hole. Go get this generic jam. It's only a gazillion gold guineas for grand gourmand gaga. Give it as gift to your guy, grant it as graft to your gal, or in gregarious gemütlichkeit to your gay girlfriends, those gorgeous gads. Gauche, gosh yes, but gone with genial glam from your gaping goblet. Given your gallon as gonzo, by gar you're gonna grieve from your grotto in the gutter, your gasping gulch. I think the most appropriate response to that I've heard was from a friend of mine who at the end of that said, gee. Next poems are shorter poems. They're called Shooters, and they're kind of postcard poems from around the Americas, looking at different national drinks of the Americas. The first one is called Pisco. Lima cries for Spain. Spain was a swan in its hands with a rosy cloaca and a cock that tasted of bull meat. Lima cries for Spain. 2. Cachaça. In Sao Paulo, a monarch's fears are many, yet few could imagine the statutory pain of a marble face eaten by acid rain. 3. Mezcal. Boys sell chiclets in Tenochtitlan. Beneath the Catholic Church, Aztec temples. Beneath Aztec temples, the savage lake. A man pastes posters for a salsa band at the temple gates. And your mother, too, they have raped. 4. Bourbon. On pillows of Hampshire green, its father's breast, Washington weeps, keep, keep. Rum. 6. Every song Havana sings is a prisoner's song from El Morro, with a voice of ballast rum and sand. Havana has much to offer. Havana has HIV infection. Havana has a lovely complexion. Havana offers much of what it has. Havana has shingles. Havana has crabs. Havana has what Havana has. Chicha. In La Paz, men whistle. Men bang bangers and crank crankers. They thump and bump. They rub and hump. They harumph. When the men speak, they speak only to say, we men speak very little. Men under their hair handle nuts and bolts like the breasts of women. They twist clockwise and counterclockwise, fitting things together. Men tighten things up. Men loosen things off. Men work at women with their hydraulic couplings. You can see men under pressure beating within the heads of men. You can see men in their heads beating men. The soft skulls of men. The soft, slick skulls of men. They could embrace men. They could kill men. Men hold gears to their teeth like apples or the beautiful tips of cocks. It is hard to take men. There are so many. Look at these streets in La Paz, covered with men. Pisco. And there's actually some dispute between, I have to say, between Peru and Chile around Pisco. They both contend that it's a national drink. They've almost come to arms over it, so I'm just going to state it for both of them. Pisco. A massive steel beam is moved by a crane stenciled with the capital letters IOTA. A man crouched on his haunches paints a chain link fence with rust-colored paint. A woman rinses her mouth with water carried in pipes of copper mined from the open pits of Chuquicamata. In the smoke from smelter number 8, Maria & Co. Incorporate. At a meeting of the Sindicata, a Codelco man raises his hand, feeling a sudden secondary syphilitic stigmata. He seconds the pain of Santiago. Without going too far into the sound poems in this section, I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on some of the other sections in the book. This last poem from this first section on alcohol is called Final Call, and it's one that was dedicated to the Manx. It's spooky how far that night we pushed the dram, and how quick we pulled it from the publican's hand. Muddled from 3 gin tonics, I saw La Fée Verte and a leprechaun break dance about the rim. Halfway through a Jaeger bomb, I met a Wendigo talking Hubble astrophysics to a gin. Near the bottom of the Jeroboam, was it Rimbaud buggering Verlaine and toasting absinthe to Baudelaire? Someone slurred in translated text, you look green, your eyes are red. With a blue carousel, his mouth went, oh, it was surreal. To blast beyond that Rubicon, I packed my engines with tarry hash, swallowed a mouthful of the shroom, and spoke in tongues sidereal. The stars replied in helium and hummed mane padme hum. The ballast cut, my spirit left the room. From far below some Buddha toned, it's closing time, enlightenment is fluorescent, which my mind paraphrased to that babble that bubbles from the helicon effervescent. Then he cracked the gates between my eyes with a kiss of dehydrogenize. The next poem I'm going to read is I haven't read it out loud that often because it's a poem that's a little bit written for the page, but I thought I wanted to try it tonight. It's one that functions with the idea of the sort of metaphorical link between viral replication and rhyme, if you can put that together, and the idea of insertion and repetition. And so it's really trying to, in some ways, mimic the reproduction of HIV. So I guess keep that in mind as you're listening to this, and you'll kind of get some of the insertions as they come on. They're a little bit more easy to follow on the page, but you'll hear them sonically as well. It's called Intravenous. Lynn, we met the day Dawn asked to suck me off. Not my cock, he made clear, but toes without socks. Boys in sandals got him off. You wheel through that memory, your legs in casts, the virus rhyming RNA to reverse transcriptase your DNA, bones sapped combivir, sequinavir, ritonavir by the daily pharmablasts to make you gag and keep the docs away. Those were the days we worked in then, homeless guys down on second, drunk on old stock beer by 10. Sex workers, hookers, days by night work, up from the streets for the free lipstick and condoms, safes we dispensed, high on heroin, smack, or as the cell becomes a sieve, coke, crack. Eyes blue with another negative test, mascara or black from pimp beatings in the parking lot turns positive out back. Lynn, you fundraised, you spoke, you organized. You were one of the few who could help men die. And I never once saw you like me, teary-eyed. Every day since then, this, the line I tend. I see it, think it, caught, daring words to mean, by habit, everything I've touched and seen. My fingers still type its name, all caps, it, that floating thing, sex equals silence equals death, called a referent. As in the doc says, I've got it, voice quiver, bold italics, carrying us away from the linguistic things we never wanted meant. Grid, the gay plague, the empty cipher AIDS, and Christian placards saying God loves fags. Insert thread, dead body. Doc, I'm 21 and just found out I've got HIV. I'm done. Dead. I write it now between the faces of the faceless men who came and went. Figure 1, see this micron pic of a lymphocyte swarmed by neon pink viral replicants. Look how they shimmer and dance a sequin dress of nothingness. Like so many torn couplets, each with something new to mend. Lynn, we were the same age, but you got fucked. The body with sex is blessed, and I didn't. And that's where our stories split. Fucked by a boyfriend who didn't know he had it. Fucked by the used needle he shot with the pusher who pushed it. Fuck, it's also never at rest. By the grower who grew it. The mule who shoved it up his ass at the border and got through it. Fucked and concerned for years by their needles and plastic. The politicians with their votes and budgets. And fucked in its own blood by the poster saying he, a woman carrying a boy child, was an innocent victim, meaning everyone else and tears deserved it. You got fucked by the infinite, a virus, and its 33 million faces that loves everything it erases. Lynn, so many words, you and the drugs got better. To say it, why, we slept together in your bed. I haven't looked for you since then. No stupid rhymes, scared of knocking you from that past, the living with the dead, tense where your bones began to mend. A whole new life, no one screamed when you bled, was inserted in. This next poem is a little bit lighter, but in the same theme. As I said at the introduction, the book is split into 4 parts, and this second part, called Bodies, is about HIV. I've been working in HIV prevention in government and at the community level for over 10 years. So this next poem is called Safer Lex. And what I've done is I've actually brought together guidelines on the use of latex condoms from a number of different sources and put them all in together into one set of instructions. But then I went through and replaced all references to sexual organs, sexual acts, sexual liquids with slang from an extensive database called sexlexis.com. And this is what you end up with. Treat your plumber's helper gently and keep him out of the sun. Practice putting on a pullover while manning the cockpit on your own. You never know when Jack will strike the jack pocket, so carry a rain jacket at all times. This is not zipper morals, but a responsible way to get one's chimney swept. Open the envelope carefully to avoid damaging your diving suit, then gently pull the cassock over the bishop's mitre. If you plan to lap southern seas, do so over a half-cut nightcap. As an alternative, before heading to the bush with a sleeping bag, why not try using your quail pipe to roll the tent over the tent peg? If you have Venetian blinds, pull them back so the Cyclops is dead-eye in the Trojan. The thingamabob should not cover the thingamies. If you plan to do some uphill gardening, use lots of jelly on your hoe handle. You don't want the seed sack to split when carrying wild oats. If your exclamation point becomes a dangling modifier, the head gasket might slip from the dipstick. This is the biggest single cause of gene pool failure. If it does this while varnishing the pole, obviously stop the train. You will need a new hubcap before you get ball bearing grease everywhere. If making sandwiches or moving from a mustard jar to a honey pot, never use the same Freudian slip twice. Also, Freudian slips come in many textures and sizes. Once you have sent your troops to the hinterlands, carefully withdraw and pull off your armor. Watch out, it will be full of live ammunition. Remember, for trips to the Pink Palace in the Black Forest, rubber boots are essential. Riding stallions, saddle up. The third section of the book is called The Cloud Chamber. It's a section that kind of roves around with a focus on specific phonemes in the English language and specific orthographies, so that is spellings and jargons. And I was really, in terms of a compositional method for this, it was really being led on by one of those ideas. So looking at a particular letter, looking at a particular sound, or looking at a jargon of a particular discipline. And what I would do is I would actually go through a fairly extensive search using electronic dictionaries and create a vocabulary that I wanted to use, and from there whittle it down into a poem that had some sense. And so that's what these poems are. And I think you'll get the sounds and what it's actually focusing on through each of the poems. The first one is called, I'll read this one, Arabian Light Crude, which is around $100 a barrel right now. Golden is the voiceless fricative, yet when angels sing, you can hear the price of gasoline. Shh, shushed the Saudi sheikh, shielding his eyes from the desert sun, as into the Aramco ship the last spout drop dripped like the final notes from a sham. Cerebrally, he strums the crude homocline beneath the Shahan Shah's figuline eardrum. Shh, you can almost sense it. First the Shanai, then the Shakawachi, then the Shang, each reed hum a shadow of the essence, the spirit, the high-octane one. He stretches his sandals through the poly shag and sings like a sibyl, like a shaman, the siffling song of the sandy Sheba as his shaheen shits on the sleeve of his thob. On the Chinook, the Shamal, a shrill figurine, she flew beneath the shul of drill strings, legs shackled by jewels of benzene. I should mention as well, when I was going through and creating these poems, I wasn't really concerned by time period. So there's actually some words in here that will come from like the Middle Ages all the way up to the present. So that's probably why there's some vocabulary there that's a bit questionable. So I don't expect you to know it. So next one is called The Switch. Engine to mouth a gurgle, he chugs as his mother mans the spoon train, charging steam, choo-choo on a quid of chow. A beat unpitched, a pro quo itched. What means plateau alveolar affricate? Below, underneath, sandwich beneath his cow-catch teeth, the platform for his first foul words. Son of a bitch, obscene little fucker, chomp soap and listen to your mother. Her voice chugs and doppels down memory's long train tunnel, mulched and gnawed by wretched glottal stops. But that train chuckled from the station years ago. The child's grown up, chums trucks in charcoal breeches, checks dials, chuffs his cap, and chortles whistles heard afar. Which derailed my thoughts of lunch with echoed chords of upchuck chop and change on tracks crushed by trains. The two-bit queen, what a chump, every chance she took it on the maw. This next one is a fun one. It focuses on the O-U-G-H, which is an odd one in English. And I think I've used almost every word in the English language that carries that. There might be one or two that are missing. Methought. Lost near the loss
lost near the loss nigh Loughborough. I saw naught but my airy thoughts in a fog so rough it chafed the throat and poured in the lungs like draught. My lot, up to my hocks in naught but a slough in the bog, nothing land towns like Loughborough slough off, where I mind no ghosts but those I ought. The nightly slaughter forefathers and daughters fought, now the unplowed troughs, fraught by drought, planted with never a thought, but that bit of needing hot the rich slough off. Dough for all the salt things that can be bought, though not by us, toughs and burrow dogs, bow wow, hear us cough, like our throats will never be clear enough, worth barely a laugh, so tightly wrought, so thoroughly lost like I'm lost, caught between through and thought, in the soothing softs and clothing bluffs, where offing English goes to rot. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dogs. F is frayful friction, like the fighter jet F-16, while two fingers fake the fiction of peace or victory. With gruff F's, the Fox Huntsman tally-hoes his lazy dogs, lost in Mickey Fins and GHB, high on soporific fogs. While the 4-foot vamp in vetch flits her tail and flees, she fights for a land unfetched. Over cliff and bluff, the huntsman flings his arsenal of frag grenades, tomahawks, and UAV extraterrestrial drones to steeplechase the vixen terrorist with a palindromic xylophone. Forest informants waterboarded say the bitch is Archduke Ferdinand or a UVF defender of the red paw hand. While fomenting counter spooks rumor WMD and an IRA sleeper cell, pet name Synecdoche. Vermin of herded love, the well-versed floozy jumps. She scuffles in living furs and muffs. She tussles in velvet fisticuffs. On fenland tongue or covert lip, she leaves the huntsman forfeit. He fuffs his horns, his hounds hold fast, till the vapid mastiffs pick up again the inky scent. The beagles turn, the pointers point at me. Three more poems. This next one is called Sinuosities. And it's focusing, as you'll hear, on the NG sound. And I thought, for this one, it really had to be situated up in the sinuses, because certainly when you try to go, it's all the way up here. And so this is a poem suitably enough about spelunking. Spelunking in the upper ethmoid, looking for a gangling beast, the petrogopalatine ganglion, gurgling nasal goo and wheezing snot. Talking on my 4G, Singapore rang, saying, go hang. We're selling no more of the fake Ming sake servers you're making with the chain gangs of Sing Sing. In the big house by day, banging rocks by night, hungry they clung to such bling, finnings each in guising. From the grungy depths going further, we heard mangy maxilla clanging amongst sinus chambers, groaning like a dangerous jungle thing. Air sampling, we were finding traces of dung, bong gunk, and ginseng, like an arranged plate of hors d'oeuvre fingerlings. In English slang, Keelung was texting, definitely unhappy face your proposal, Kuomintang. What's the opposite of cha-ching? The sound my empty palm was singing. This would bring no end of angst-filled hand-wringing in Beijing, with a Geiger counter dinging. We were getting close, plunging through the mucus. We saw something and started digging. Actually, I think I'll finish with this next poem. This is called Ms. Mitzi. Ms. Mitzi, not chintzy but glitzy, sports an itsy bitsy of quartz and quetzal. Since bat mitzvah, she spritz tzatziki, blitz blintzes with drizzled schmaltz, plot zitzits in the matzo whilst frizzling gizzards and spätzle. Chizzy ditzes kabitz, not a schmuck but a patzer, with the head of a tzantza, an air sans Rosenkrantz. What a puzzle Miss Mitzi is. But Ms. Mitzi muzzles the tsaritsas and waltzes their grizzled czars to jazz on the Ritz's Wurlitzer like a chazan or dzitzi in a buzzy kazoo. Undazzled, she guzzles Retsina and fizzy seltzers and crazes in jacuzzis till jizz squizzles from nuzzled pizzles or puts the putz's upper wazoo. Gunts, they tuzzle her schnitzel and dazzle her fuzzy platzel, her triple lutz, her schmozzle. Dizzy and tizzy, she fizzles in a frazzle. Ms. Mitzi, what a puzzle. Thanks.